Howdy, welcome back to Bikini Bottom. Let's check out the worst and best of SpongeBob's recent adventures. We'll look at every single available episode of season 13 and 14, as of this video's release anyway. Basically, everything SpongeBob from 2022 onwards. And we'll rank each and every one from worst to best. We'll start with the worst of the worst episodes and steadily make our way up to the best. This is the latest SpongeBob episodes from worst to best. Let's start with the abysmal episodes. Squidward's Sick Days. This episode is so bad that I literally can't find it on Paramount Plus for the rest of season 13. Were they really so upset with it that they literally removed it from the service? The story for this one is, Squidward is so miserable at work this week that he's literally having nightmares about it. So, shockingly, he chooses to have a day off. Good for him. But when Squidward calls up sick for work, apparently, somehow, Krabs can see him through the phone lines. Okay. I guess we've seen weirder things in this show. So he punishes Squidward for trying to take a day off by sending SpongeBob over to take care of him.
Take one of these and call me in the morning.
Wait, so who's serving at the Krusty Krab then? As if Krabs could actually do serving and cooking by himself for the whole day. We don't get nearly as many Squidward torture episodes in recent seasons, but this is a definite example of one. As Squidward is continually suffering with SpongeBob trying to take care of him at his house, and doing a really bad job. And honestly, seeing a Squidward torture episode this late into the series kinda bums me out. I thought these were behind us. Anyway, Pat the dog. Oh, what do you know? SpongeBob volunteers at the worm shelter. I guess similar to a real-life dog shelter. Actually, I used to volunteer at the dog shelter too. And I felt SpongeBob's trepidation for approaching some of these feral worms. There's some good boys at the shelter and pound, but nothing activates the instincts like an undomesticated wild dog barking at you to back off. So what happens in the worm shelter? Well, it results in the Patrick is stupid shtick. Here, Patrick pretends to be a dog. Dog worm. Why is Patrick suddenly acting like a dog? It's just unstructured and stupid. There's a subplot about Squidward trying to quote-unquote train Patrick, but then he keeps trying to abandon him? Maybe I'm just biased, but this is among the most irritating episodes of these two seasons. And I was downright relieved when it was over. And now for the bad episodes. Chum. Oh my. Oh, this is the only episode in the seasons that makes me feel legitimately sick in the stomach. Plankton gets flushed down the sink into the sewer, and he meets a chum monster. And it's... oh jeebus, why? It's so gross looking.
We are chum. Collective hive under master.
In fact, in the sewers, there's this entire grotesque chum civilization. These things decapitate and malform into fleshy monstrosities, fleshy objects, fleshy boats. It's pretty grotesque. By the halfway point, I just suspected Plankton had left the gas on and was hallucinating. Is he just playing with his chum under the table in a dazed stupor? What can you say about chum? It's gross. It's like a G-rated Song of Saya. Ugh. As for pluses, well, I like seeing Plankton sick his toilet army on Krabs, and I'll give them this, it's damn well interesting to watch. I was staring in fascinated, morbid horror the whole way through. I mean, my stomach was churning watching these fleshy terrors, but props for keeping my attention.
So, you guys wanna hang out?
My friend Patty. Sandy creates the anthropomorphizer.
The anthropomorphizer!
Anthropomorphizer. Like it. A device that can turn anything into living things. Holy cow.
I reckon I'm the smartest squirrel in the world.
I reckon that's an understatement, Sandy. You've created a miniature-sized laser that can turn solid carbon into organic material with a working central nervous system and brain function complicated enough to verbally communicate at an 86 billion neuron level. I'd say you're the greatest scientific genius in humankind. Well, squirrel kind, but also humankind. And what do they use this brilliant concept for? Following around a living Krabby Patty with an Australian accent for some reason. Or is that New Zealand? Anyway.
Everyone looks so happy. I want to be happy like them, SpongeBob.
But apart from being mysteriously Kiwi, the burger has zero personality. Much like Forky in Toy Story 4, it basically just wants to serve its purpose and disappear. So in this case, it just wants to be eaten. Either way, it's a waste of a good concept. I mean, turning anything into living things, that's brilliant. What a waste. They had endless possibility. Anyway, the episode's just a boring talking Krabby Patty.
Sunday.
Next up, we have You're Going to Pay Phone and A Skin Wrinkle in Time. I'm split on this episode because the first half is pretty interesting. Krabs is mind controlled by a phone that starts him giving everything away in the restaurant sporadically. But the second half is just Grandpat Sea Sponge yelling as he time travels through random spots. Who cares? The show I'm watching is called Spongebob Squarepants, not Grandpat Sea Sponge. And much like the Patrick show that is trying to shoehorn its way into this episode, it's too surreal. Although it might not feel like it sometimes, SpongeBob does keep some grounded structure to its stories. The Patrick show has no structure, and I find it really boring and hard to follow for that. And it's like that stupid show I didn't like is just Hijack SpongeBob's show. I've personally chosen not to watch The Patrick Show, but to keep watching SpongeBob. Now they're forcing The Patrick Show in my face under the flimsy pretense he's in a time machine? Not cool, man. I hate that show. If I want Patrick Show, I'll go to The Patrick Show. Otherwise, go away, Patrick Show.
I'm a bad person!
And next we have Squidbird. Have you heard about the bird? I heard from Peter. It's the word. In Bikini Bottom, it appears clams are the equivalent to birds somehow. Main problem, way too much Squidward suffering here. It's your old typical played out SpongeBob being an annoying neighbor while Squidward tries to get some quiet episode. Except this time, SpongeBob has trained some clams to be an even more annoying neighbor than he could possibly be alone. And the clams are just boring. Their animation consists only of them opening and closing their mouths while making a generic bellbird sound. One redeeming factor of the episode is SpongeBob and Patrick also have to deal with the clams at the end as well, not just Squidward. I mean, unlike Squidward, they don't get dumped in a volcano, but there's a little consequence for them bugging Squiddy. And the next episode is Something Narwhal This Way Comes. Hey, Narlene is back. Who is Narlene, you ask? Fair question. Well, she's a minor recurring character, and a narwhal who resides in Kelp Forest. Anyway, Narlene's come to visit SpongeBob, and she's a hillbilly. Yeah, remember that old hillbilly shtick? I'm afraid it's back. In fact, we get 2 terrible shticks here for the price of 1, including my least favorite animation trope in the whole wide world. The thing that would not leave. This terrible trope is when someone enters the hero's home, makes a mess of their home, interrupts their routine, generally causes chaos and misery to the main character, and of course the hero can't get them to leave. Narlene invites over all her hillbilly cousins and completely renovates SpongeBob's home. The only twist to this shtick? SpongeBob seems to be enjoying it. He kind of gets into the hillbilly spirit. I guess that makes the trope a little fresher, but of course Squidward's miserable, and who can blame him? I would be too. In fact, the Narwhal Hillbilly siege soon leaves the entire town a mess. But I gotta say, props to SpongeBob, because he has no qualms in politely asking Narwhal and her friends to leave. So Plankton, Narlene, and SpongeBob join forces to bring an end to the Hillbilly siege. I never quite got the SpongeBob series repeatedly doing the played out hillbilly shtick. I mean, do you find hillbillies funny? I mean, no judgment. If this is your thing and I just don't get it, that's fine. On the plus side, we do get a donkey, and I like donkeys.
He remembers you too.
The next bad episode is Pet for a Rock. Patrick gets a pet rock. He names him Rolly. Oh, come on, writers, we've already got the Patrick show. Did we really need an entire SpongeBob episode dedicated to Patrick playing with a rock? He kinda sorta gets caught in a chase with a geode hunter, but it's more interesting than it sounds. It's overall a boring premise. The premise is Patrick has a rock. He throws the rock at stuff. It's destructive. He treats the rock like a pet. Thrilling. The Rock Hunter villain is the most generic villain I've seen in the show in eons. He has no complexity beyond wanting a rock. Let's see, positives. I like this line from Patrick.
The world is your toilet.
And I guess SpongeBob teaches the basics of having a pet. Feeding pets, walking pets, cleaning pets. I guess those are good lessons to kids. And Gary doing magic tricks on SpongeBob is a fun extra. But personally, I thought this Patrick Pet Rock episode was just as thrilling as the original Pet Rock. And now for the lousy episodes. Let's start with the big bad Bubble Bass. You know a character I have no interest in whatsoever? Bubble Bass. But apparently someone out there does like him, because we keep getting new episodes with Bubble Bass in it. They even gave him an episode in the Patrick Show making fun of Doug.
With our first segment, you can't do that in real life.
Which I just never understood. Why Doug? He doesn't even look like Bubble Bass. Maybe I'm just jealous because I've been talking about SpongeBob for 10 years and never got so much as an orange-shirted fish.
Okay, careful what you wish for. Sorry, never mind.
Either way, Bubble Bass is a bore. We've already seen this character in Comic Book Guy in The Simpsons for like 34 years. Well, if you've been alive for that long, but you get what I'm saying. I'm sure the writers are trying to say something with Bubble Bass, but I've never been quite sure what. Internet trolls are annoying and many need to get a life? Well, yeah, duh. Way to think outside the box, guys. Basically, Bubble Bass wants to steal a rare figurine from Spongy, and Patrick and Spongy do play off Bubble Bass well. My favorite part is when the two perform a freaking exorcism. They put on the dark cult coats and everything. Oh, and Karen as a storytelling fairy was a nice touch too. This is almost a bad episode, but not quite. Next up, there will be grease. There will indeed be grease. What an odd concept for an episode. In fact, at first, even the episode can't figure out what to do with this stupid grease concept.
We'll use it to boost business at the Krusty Krab. A flavorful new sandwich topping.
No, you've already done that in earlier seasons. Weirdly, they end up selling the grease as snake oil. Basically as a miracle juice to cure everything. Their cure-all is concentrated animal fats and vegetable oil. There's that queasiness again. I guess the good part of this episode is it can teach people how easy it is to be swept up in misinformation and scams. And it's always nice to see Krabs and Plankton working together again. Of course, it does come back to bite them in the rear. Overall, just a boring, lousy episode. And next episode is We Love Hoops. Best part of this episode? This new animation style at the beginning. It's nice to see the SpongeBob crew taking a shot at this old-timey Cuphead style of animation. And there is a good amount of word jokes here.
Let's get out our official hoops that I bought on eBay.
And there's an interesting new discovery. Old Man Walker, he's actually SpongeBob's favorite child star, 80 years later anyway, Hoops. If you ever want proof that characters in SpongeBob do actually age, well, it's right here. Pretty bland story here. They throw a few hijinks with Hoops and his other retired friend. It's mostly just elderly jokes and car chases, neither of which I find very interesting. While it's nice to see some of the older fish getting some attention, I just didn't find Hoops a very interesting character. And next lousy episode is Potato Puff. Ah, nice, a Miss Puff episode. She has a plan to avoid getting injured by SpongeBob's driving. She gets a potato, from the French narrator of course, and SpongeBob does his driving test with the Spud.
Sure, SpongeBob. Boy, I feel like I'm really getting the hang of this turning right thing.
She uses this time to catch up on some wrestling on the TV. For some reason though, she doesn't mute her potato's walkie-talkie. Thus SpongeBob gets the wrong driving instructions and causes mass destruction in Bikini Bottom. Ah man, this is gonna end with Mrs. Puff going to jail again, isn't it? I mean, yes, this is technically her fault, but can we just not? Just for this episode? At least it's kind of cool seeing Mrs. Puffs get a mohawk and go all badass on us.
Oh, you sure are resilient, Mrs. Puff.
Yes, Mrs. Puffs. Yes, you are. It's no wonder she's such a legend with the bikers. At this point, she must be well known there, having spent years in jail. And now, let's move on to the vanilla episodes. Spatula of the Heavens. This is the most vanilla episode of season 13. SpongeBob loses his trusty spatula and goes to the Great Mountains in the Himalayas, I think, to reforge his spatula and talk to some great monk who apparently I think is a master of cooking patties. But of course, SpongeBob is a royal pain to him. So eventually the monk reforges his spatula and boots him out. But hey, with his spatula restored, SpongeBob's confidence is back. There's nothing to say about this episode other than it's inoffensive. The only joke I chuckled at was SpongeBob's replacement and his catchphrase.
I'm prepared!
It's a SpongeBob Christmas. SpongeBob does something rather selfless here and gets Santa a gift for Xmas. And fun fact about Santa when he visits Bikini Bottom, he's naturally way too big for most of the sea creatures, so he actually has to shrink down. Nice little realistic attention to detail there. But Santa accidentally misses his gift from Spongy, so SpongeBob begins his odyssey to deliver his gift to Santa. In July, luckily, Plankton volunteers his ship to fly to the North Pole to get himself off the naughty list. Apparently he gets coal every year. But you know the weirdest part of this episode? They meet Patchy the pirate, but the animation on him is really awkward looking. Don't get me wrong, it's always great to see Patchy, but why does his animation look so strange and different compared to the rest of the episode? My guess is because he's normally in live action and they want to differentiate him. But it just looks odd. I hope this isn't a recurring thing and Tom Kenny doesn't think he's too old to show himself as Patchy. As long as he's alive, he'll always be a delight to me. Anyway, Santa's in the Caribbean, so SpongeBob has to deal with the elves and reindeer. You've seen this episode a million times before in animation. It's your basic, let's go see Santa at the North Pole road trip episode. All throughout animation for many decades it's been done over and over. And there's just nothing different about it here. It's a full double episode special, but there's surprisingly few jokes here. The only joke I actually remember is that all of Santa's reindeers are actually buff, overtrained gym junkies. That's kind of funny. It's not a bad episode by any means, but it's basically the same experience as any generic cartoon Xmas episode. They've done way better SpongeBob Xmas episodes before. Next in our vanilla episodes, we have Gary's Playhouse. As the title suggests, SpongeBob makes Gary a playhouse. Basically a dog kennel. And Gary immediately adapts to it and lives out there, much to the surprise of SpongeBob. In fact, Gary starts a whole miniature neighborhood. Particularly here, Gary is fiercely independent. In other words, he acts like what a cat would normally act like. Which I guess explains the meow. There is some fun jokes here, like when Squidward mishears SpongeBob and complains to Larry about the noise. And despite Gary immediately leaving SpongeBob when he gets his house, I like how SpongeBob doesn't get too butthurt about this. The cliched thing to do would be, oh, I miss Gary so much I can't stand not having him around the house. But instead, he's just impressed and watches Gary's new neighborhood develop. Even Squidward and Krabs get really enamored with the kingdom. Gary's Playhouse is definitely not a bad episode. It didn't make me laugh, but this miniature Bikini Bottom was a creative novelty. Seriously guys, I'm glad you're having fun, but it's not that cute. Next up we have Dopey Dick. That name, oh dear.
Sounds naughty.
I think it more sounds like it needs an invigorating medication. Anyway, I'm sorry, I just find the original story of Moby Dick kinda dull. It's common in animation to get the characters we love in kinda historic or storybook roles. But with these older books, it just bores the bejeebers out of me. The biggest plus for me is it's nice to see Squidward in a more enthusiastic role where he doesn't, hate his life. For the first time in I think the history of the entire show, we see him looking for another job.
Might you lovers have employment for an able-legged young buck with cash register experience?
And I've wanted to see him do that for a very long time, and he's surprisingly fitting for the role of Ishmael. SpongeBob works pretty well for the role of Captain Ahab too. Much like the story of Moby Dick, they have to hunt down the whale Dopey. Oh, that's a terrible name.
Dopey Dick.
Can't hate this episode, I just call it vanilla. But I will say, the story of Moby Dick holding a grudge is a powerful one. And there's something strangely powerful about watching SpongeBob capture Moby Dick and just choose to let him go.
Fly and be free, Dopey Dick. Doi doi.
It's weirdly beautiful,
Hello?
Candy! Help me!
Next up, we have Sandy Help Us. Ooh, a Sandy episode, I'm there. And more love for the tree dome. It turns out people call on Sandy for help a lot.
Sandy, help me.
Hop in hole, SpongeBob.
So Sandy has to use her brains and cunning to solve problems constantly. She even helps out the Flying Dutchman.
Maybe some of this.
Apparently, even the military relies on her to save Earth from giant apocalyptic meteors. It seems Sandy's actually the superhero of her entire planet. Who knew? I thought I'd like this episode a lot, but it's very random. Sandy unleashes a brawny, pecan Sandy from her walnut. But when it goes out of control, she gets overstressed and has to call Narlene her country buddy.
Darlene, help me!
Credit where credit's due. It's not boring, I like the characters, and there's way worse episodes this season. But it was a little too absurd and unstructured for my taste. It's closer to what you'd see in the Patrick show, and I don't like the influence it's giving SpongeBob. And there's also a nice message at the end about letting people be free to just be themselves. It's an overly worn message and a bit of a muddled and weird episode, but I liked it okay. Next up is Goofy Scoopers. It's SpongeBob and Patrick's favorite Chuck E. Cheese spin-off, Goofy Goobers. Turns out they're also fans of Goofy Scoopers, a parody of those old animatronics from Chuck E. Cheese. But they're being replaced, paying homage to how Chuck E. Cheese replaced their own animatronics too, when they tried revamping for the younger generation. So, as their biggest fans, Spongy and Patrick hunt down these old crappy animatronics. And it turns out they're alive animatronics.
I'm a working robot now.
Okay, and they're considerably less murderous than the usual animatronics we see. Anyway, you can probably guess what's gonna happen. Spongy and Patrick bring the animatronics back together for their reunion show, and it goes pretty much exactly as what you'd expect from a reunion episode. One character won't return, but at the last minute they come back to make the reunion happen. Not great, not terrible, fun enough. And now onto the episodes that are okay. Binary Bottom. Let's twist up the world of SpongeBob into a bizarre robotic world. It's a novelty, but hey, this was a really unexpected novelty. It makes room for a lot of fun jokes we've never seen before, like the Krabby Battery. Yeah, we're in for a strange flavor of SpongeBob here. Sure, this novelty might get dull over a few episodes, but every moment was stacked full of creative animation. So I was entertained the whole way. But my favorite joke? Everyone is a robot, except of course the robot Karen, who is now a flesh and blood human, a fish woman.
Mama told me not to marry a robot.
But honestly, I have no idea what's going on with Sandy, or Sandroid. She's become a massively powerful supercomputer megabot.
Who disturbs the sacred dome of Sandroid?
She assimilates all robots in Bikini Bottom, then heads over to our world so the robots can take over. I can't guarantee you'll laugh at this episode, but I can guarantee you'll have no idea what's coming next. And the older I get, the more I appreciate when animation does that. Next up, we have Patrick the Mailman. Patrick accidentally twists the back of the mailman. So, as you can probably guess by the name, Patrick takes over as mailman for the day. And you know, that's a great setup for him. It's a bit like Chocolate with Nuts, but instead of being salesmen, both Patrick and Spongy will try to be mailmen for the day. I mean, it's not as good as Chocolate with Nuts, but very few things are. It hasn't got that much clever dialogue, but focuses instead on animation jokes. And way more mail jokes than I thought could ever exist. Given we get most of our notifications in our world through email and phone nowadays, it's kind of quaint to see a world where mail is still the primary way to hear about stuff. But you know, I like that about SpongeBob's world. They keep the exhaustions of our own world, like social media, at an arm's distance. And that helps keep their world a good respite from our own. I'd put this episode right in the middle of the list. It's 100% okay. And next up we have Upturn Girls. Pearl episode, nice. For some reason she's got a much bigger overbite now. Weird small thing to notice, I know, nothing wrong with it, it just stuck out to me. Kinda suits her though. Anyway, important thing is Pearl is here. And Narlene, the pink hillbilly one, gets a guide around Bikini Bottom with Pearl as her tour guide. She even takes us to Bikini Bottom Upturn Mall. Apparently these two whales are friends. Who knew? When we have a Pearl episode, we get this nice recurring habit of getting a tour around the undersea mall. like in Mall Girl Pearl. And since I also spend a lot of free time walking around malls, I find this a refreshing change of scenery. Most of the episode is just Pearl and Narlene making trouble at the mall, but it's a fun change of scenery. And we get to see that more upscale side of Bikini Bottom, only to see our two whale friends trash it, which is so much more satisfying. No one messes with the whales in the ocean, and Bikini Bottom is no exception. Your mileage may vary on this episode depending on how much you like Pearl, but she's among my favorite characters, so I'd call this episode okay. Next up, we have Buff for Puff. We get a little character expansion on the Mrs. Puffs and Mr. Krabs romance. Lovely to see.
Is this seat taken?
It is now, sailor.
Unlike shows like The Simpsons, SpongeBob isn't afraid of a little change in canon, and I respect that. Amazingly, these two actually get a good 2 minutes of just being romantic on their date. It's kinda cute, but it turns out Mr. Krabs is insecure and jealous of Larry's muscles. Seems like he's a bit insecure about his body image.
She's sick of this old sack of fondue.
I don't know though. For a 50 to 60-year-old crab who spends most of his time sitting in a chair and counting money, he looks pretty good to me. Either way, Krabs starts buffing up at the gym. See, this is something I've missed, seeing Krabs actually focus on something other than his business and money. Well, mostly. At least he's using his motivations to push himself physically, and that's pretty smart. But since he can't see results within a week, he just steals Larry's shell. I mean, credit to him for at least trying to get his beach bod the honest way. Shame his self-discipline only lasted a week.
Can't change your physique in a week.
But as someone who's been attending gym for about 13 years now, it's nice to see the SpongeBob show lightly touching on gym psychology, and body image for that matter. What's someone's motivation for going to the gym? Are they doing it for physical or mental health? To impress someone? Mrs. Puff goes off with Larry in the end, but you know, she's back with Mr. Krabs in later episodes. And in the end, it's a nice message about body image and what many people are actually looking for. Next episode is Pool Fools. This episode is giving off serious idiot box vibes. SpongeBob digs a hole in his backyard and somehow makes a pristine, beautiful pool, which of course Squidward refuses to participate in, even though he wants to. Why? Spongy would be delighted if you took a dip.
Squidward, come join us in the pool.
He wants to go in the pool a lot, but for some reason he hides this from SpongeBob. I don't know, this motivation felt pretty cliche to me, but they don't drag this part out too much. Squidward secretly goes in the pool and loves it.
Now I can have the pool all to myself.
But he kinda sorta gets caught and has to pretend to be a pool toy. It's weird. It's straightforward enough. SpongeBob makes a pool, Squidward goes in it. By the end, they all have a pretty nice time. Though Squidward takes a hell of a dive bomb at the end. It's way better quality than a season 7 episode, but nothing amazing. If you want to see SpongeBob and Squidward in their own home pool, well, here you go. There's some Squidward suffering, particularly when he pretends to be a pool toy, but hey, at least it's short-lived. And I think it has a kind of sweet ending. When Squidward does come clean, SpongeBob just says to Squidward he can use the pool anytime he wants.
Day or night, you silly.
And I find it really sweet how earnest he is about it. Next up, we have Sponge Chovy. Hey, those meep fish are back from episode 1.
I think they're anchovies.
But they say meep.
Do anchovies say meep?
I don't think so.
Well, whatever they're called, they're cute and a welcome return. In fact, Spongy gets dragged along in their pack and he has a good old time with them. I like what was originally probably just a simplistic animation for a fish crowd has been turned into this unique breed of fish. Weirdly, after hanging out with the meeps, SpongeBob turns into a meep. Why? Or a faux chovy? Then Patrick turns into a meep. Then the mailman turns into a meep, but another fish, it's like a meep virus. It's like the Krabby Patty Creature feature episode, but way less creepy and much lower stakes. Squidward particularly is really charming in this episode and plays off the meep fish well. And what's the deus ex machina of this meep zombie fest? Well, Squidward orders them all a giant pizza from the surface, and that somehow turns them all back to normal? Okay. I have no idea why, but the episode's entertaining enough on a surface level. And it was kind of fun seeing all the citizens of Bikini Bottom turn into anchovy meep fish.
SpongeBob, stop that meeping!
Coming up next, we have the Sea Sponge Hating Club.
And now our motto.
We don't mean SpongeBob any harm. We just can't stand him.
This is a fun idea. We get the imaginative retellings of how SpongeBob has wrecked the day of characters like Puff, Plankton, Squidward, and damn it, it's Bubble Bass again. Who out there likes this guy? Why?
He validates the existence of antisocial underachievers and makes me feel less crappy.
I like you, kid. Your lousy life makes me feel good about myself.
Oh yeah, that's fair enough, but I don't like him. Despite Bubble Bass being here, there is some creative storytelling going on. My favorite part is Squidward's live retelling of how SpongeBob ruins his day. Some really creative writing here.
I'll mix up a batch of my special pineapple punch. It's homemade, made out of the walls of my home.
And the final twist of them hosting the Sponge Hating Club in SpongeBob's house as SpongeBob's welcome guests? Well, that's legitimately funny, and it's exactly what I'd expect of this show, and SpongeBob. Overall, I'd call this episode almost good. Next up is Plain to See. Squidward wins tickets to see a luxury resort, but it's a family ticket, so he has to bring his family.
Will you children, please?
This is definitely better than vanilla, but it's nothing to write home about. It's mostly just SpongeBob and Patrick behaving like idiots and wreaking havoc on the plane, but there is some funny visual gags and jokes. There's definitely some facepalm moments, like Patrick ejects both the flight attendants and the captains of the plane all from the airlock. But this also forces Squidward to land the plane, which is not only thrilling, but it leads to some good jokes that snuck up on me. There's a joke around every corner in this plane trip. Some of them are mediocre, but a few are legitimately funny. This last joke particularly, a good example.
You want a trip to see Bora Bora Bottom, not stay there, silly.
Haha, he got to see the resort. He thought he was staying at it. Next up, we have Single Cell Defense.
Ew, what is that?
You know, I don't know if I've ever seen Plankton stepped on this much in one episode. On the plus side, we do get to see him and Karen dance in a disco, until he's stepped on again. And I always appreciate seeing Karen out and about. But when Sandy kicks Plankton's butt, he decides to learn karate.
Anything to stop the stomping.
I love martial arts, and I love the way this episode focuses on self-defense. Not just punching and kicking, but also the self-discipline taught in martial arts. And when Plankton does learn his self-defense, it's kind of awesome to watch him duke it out. Especially when he defends against the ninjas. In the end, he's beaten by a stupid technicality, but I did still have a fun time with this episode. Also, apologies if I do miss a couple of episodes. I noticed post-editing that Wikipedia listed a few episodes I simply couldn't find. I tried to cover them all, I really did, but I could only cover the episodes that are actually streaming. So a few might be missing, but the majority are here. With that said, let's continue. Alright, now for the good episodes. The Prrr Truck. Krabs sends SpongeBob and Squidward on delivery service. Eventually they head into the great unknown. The greatest unknown, in fact. Rock Bottom. Throughout the series, there's nothing like a SpongeBob and Squidward road trip. And this is right in the spirit of the pizza delivery episode, with some delightful callbacks to season 1. When SpongeBob first visited Rock Bottom. Turns out Rock Bottom citizens are big fans of Krusty Krab takeout. Oh no! It's impressive to see how much crisper this place looks 13 years later reimagined. It feels even more real in my mind now, and more like a place in the SpongeBob world. And the guy who got SpongeBob out of Rock Bottom in season 1 is back too. That guy. By the way, his real name's Bert. Way back in season 1, I always felt kinda lonely for SpongeBob when he was here, and it's surprisingly cathartic to see both him and Squidward muddling their way through this town. It's a satisfying, creative episode that's affectionately nostalgic. Next up we have Say Or. Apparently, Plankton is seen as really cute to other characters.
Adorable Tookies.
Given the way people tend to cringe when they scrub him off their foot like poop, I always assumed they thought he was hideous. But whatever, makes a story, moving on. Since everyone thinks Plankton is cute, he makes a cute duck bot. And I gotta say, this transformed mode is the most badass looking robot design I've ever seen in the show. I love how elongated, snake-like, and ferocious it is, and how it outright eats people whole. It's so cool. The whole episode has some beautiful animation. It really shows off how much the animation in this show has improved in 24 years. And while I love Season 1's animation, I really like seeing the quality of life improvements we have now, 24 years later. Maybe I'm ranking this one too high, but it's getting brownie points to that Mecha Duck bot design. I loved it. Oh, the story of the episode? This Mecha Duck bot design goes around eating everyone, and Plankton eventually has to help them escape. That's about it. Basically, the duck eats anyone that ever says, "aw." It's kinda clever. And next up, we have Funbelievable. Hey, nice. This is a bit like 22 short films about Springfield from Simpsons. Rube Goldfish, that tour guide, basically goes around Bikini Bottom meeting some of the strange random characters we've seen over the years. And he interviews them. They're mostly minor characters, except for Sandy, who's a main character.
I hold the squirrel record for the most nuts stored in my cheek.
She's still pretty funny even when she's stuffing her face full of nuts. Though I suppose realistically, that is what your real life squirrel would actually be doing most of the time. Anyway, some of the strange characters you might recognize here are the elderly lady and her daughter from Chocolate with Nuts. Fun fact, this lady is the oldest citizen in Bikini Bottom at 116 years old, and she can still fly a helicopter.
This is your captain speaking. We're going down again.
Damn, that's sprightly.
We're here at Nosferatu's castle.
Ooh, and Nosferatu, that cool but kinda creepy live-action dark guy that almost seems to haunt the set. There's some great variety in this episode, and it was entertaining enough to just fly by for me.
Horrible!
Well, I liked it, Squidward. And last but certainly not least, we have the best episodes. To start with, we have Allergy Attack.
The fry cook has broken out in some kind of rash.
Turns out it's time for SpongeBob's gazillionth Krabby Patty. Which isn't a real number, but I suspect that was intentional so weirdos like me can't speculate on SpongeBob's age. And of course, Bubble Bass is going to eat SpongeBob's gazillionth Krabby Patty. Unfortunately, SpongeBob gets an allergic reaction.
Here you go, Bubble Bass. My gazillionth Krabby Patty.
He gets a bad rash and gets stuffy and starts sneezing whenever he's in the Krusty Krab. But at least it's not as gross as Fungus Among Us. Ugh. I like how at first it looks like SpongeBob is allergic to Krabby Patties. What a cool idea that would be. It seems like a single Krabby Patty particle could send him into hives and sneezes. There's an interesting mystery here that kept me guessing, and a nice twist because everyone else breaks into hives. I had no idea where this story was going. How could everyone suddenly be allergic to Krabby Patties? I'd say this is among my favorite episodes of the new SpongeBob seasons. It was a quick mystery that kept me guessing the whole way, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Next up, we have Big Top Flop. Hoopla, hoopla, the circus is in town. And Krabs isn't happy as they're outside the restaurant and the circus is taking business away.
Hey, let's get a Krabby Patty.
No! Let's go to the circus instead!
Because I guess people go to the circus to eat here. So with Krabs hijacking the circus, Spongy and Squidward are going to be the main attractions of the show, and both of them are just so happy to be in their roles. Their joy is infectious, and they're just such a delight to see perform. SpongeBob is the beautiful balancer, while Squidward is the sad clown, the role he was born to play. I mean, think about it, he's got that tall, gangly look. He's genuinely sad inside. How awesome that he finally gets to express that complex, emotionally struggling character on stage. I haven't seen Squidward so in his element since Sweet Victory in Band Geeks. And personally, I enjoyed their performance as much as the audience did. Krabs hopes their incompetence will turn the show into a bust and scare the audience off. Unfortunately for Krabs, it's SpongeBob and Squidward, so they improve the circus business. And finally, we have the proper response from a child who sees SpongeBob perform.
Hey, that's SpongeBob. Hi, SpongeBob! Oh, hey, kids!
Even Krabs accidentally performs wonderfully while being chased by the true circus ringmaster. I think Big Top Flop is one of the best episodes of the later seasons. Next up, we have the Goob Father. I don't often think about it, but the Chum Bucket isn't the only competition the Krusty Krab has. What about Goofy Goober? Technically they're a restaurant. Well, they stayed out of each other's way until Krabs started selling the Patty Whip. He made it by mushing the burger into a ceiling fan and then stuffing it into a glass. Anyway, in case you've never seen The Godfather, it's basically a famous movie about a crime lord, but this is more about the manager and owner of the Goofy Goober. And the owner of the Goofy Goober acts much like this, using bullying tactics to get rid of Krabs' ice cream, and even has hired muscle. With the Krusty Krabs selling their new quote-unquote ice cream, the two factions go into all-out war. And unlike Plankton, they're actually kind of intimidating because they've got some hired muscle behind them. He's clearly got some tactics to take the Krusty Krab down, and he would have been a dangerous long-term opponent. Look at him crush this ice cream maker, it's brutal. But the Krusty Krab turns the tables and makes an all-out invasion as they storm the Goofy Goober headquarters. You know, I haven't been this invested in an episode in a while. And it was a refreshing idea to shake up that stale old secret formula plot. There's tons of action too, with the war being non-stop between these restaurants, and it results in multiple ice cream explosions, which, you know, makes any day a little bit better. And next up we have Captain Pipsqueak. It's always nice to see Plankton hanging out in other places apart from the Krusty Krab. His motivation today? To become a villain. In fact, he auditions to join the supervillains League of Evil, joining the dastardly likes of Man Ray and Dirty Bubble. This episode's a bit like a good Halloween party. Not that I've ever attended one, but this is what I assume they're like. Everyone gets in costume to play villains and has a great time. Like Squidward auditions to play Dr. Negative. I really enjoyed Plankton's persona, and I enjoy the fact that Karen is the one to help him choose a costume, and he fits in like a glove with a league of supervillains. Shame he couldn't get over his obsession with that stupid sandwich. He might have actually made some friends. Better luck next time, Plankton. At least you'll always have Karen. And finally we have Plankton and the Beanstalk. Oh, this was a blast. Plenty of unexpected turns here. Although I don't like all storybook settings, I have a soft spot for fairy tale settings. I suppose they did Pinocchio with Patrick, but that episode kinda sucked. In this case, the setting works perfectly for SpongeBob. Like, this is oodles better than Pat Nocio. Jack's played by Plankton, and Karen plays his clock wife. And SpongeBob is, well, have you ever seen him look like this? He's a duck.
Are you sure? I think he's a goose.
Oh no, he's a duck. What makes you think a goose?
Well, in Jack the Beanstalk, Jack found the golden goose, not the golden duck.
Listen closely, honey. SpongeBob doesn't quack, he honks.
Oh yeah, my bad. Well, duck or goose, it's like the role he's born to play. You know the other cool thing? Outside the movies, this is among the first times we've seen SpongeBob and the crew above the water. But despite it being above water, it still feels very authentically SpongeBob. Something I like about these story episodes is that the SpongeBob writers rarely stick to the traditional story ending. Instead, we might get a weird twist. Like here, Plankton and Karen keep SpongeBob as a golden goose. And you know, the goose is incredibly profitable, helping their business immensely. I generally want to see Plankton succeed, and I'm glad there's a happy ending for them here. The whole episode just makes me smile. The characters, the setting, the roles, it was just fun the whole way through. Personally, it was my favorite episode of this season. Overall, I call these later seasons really well written, with clever animation and packed with interesting varied setups. They're fast paced too, and unlike the Patrick Show, they're not too unstructured and wild. It's not quite Chocolate with Nuts or seasons 1 to 3, but I got a couple of good laughs in almost every episode. And feel free to leave your own thoughts on recent SpongeBob, but thanks for watching and I'll see you next time. Today we have a challenging question from Gojira. This one left me thinking. They ask, why did I pivot from more aggressive content in 2014 to more calm videos now? I get where you're coming from, Gojira. While I don't think I've ever had quote-unquote aggressive content, I certainly could get more worked up about cartoons 7 to 10 years ago. I still have strong opinions at times, and arguably talk about more serious topics now. Just to name one, banned books. But nowadays, I want to communicate my message to you calmly, because I don't think people hear each other as well with aggression. And frankly, there's more than enough aggression on the internet nowadays without me adding to it. My first goal on this channel is to always give you a safe space you can relax. And I don't think being aggressive will give you that. Thanks for the interesting question.